Check the mic and make sure it sound right, boys.
Cobbs Corner family, and welcome to another episode of Cobbs Corner. If this is your very first time listening to this podcast, then welcome, and to my returning listeners, welcome back. This is the 84th episode of Cobbs Corner, so thank you for tuning in. On this episode, we are going to return to our AFI Top 100 series that we've been doing forever, I know. Returning to our AFI Top 100 series with E.T. the Extra-Terrestrial. We're going back to 1982, everybody. 42 years. Before I get into this episode, I do want to, of course, acknowledge the elephant in the room, or whatever the audio equivalent is thereof. The fact that I have not posted in a while. It's been a hot minute. And for those of you who have been listening to Cobbs Corner over the past year will know that back in August of 2023, I left the United States, and I was overseas in the Federated States of Micronesia. Big shout out to the FSM. Big shout out to Xavier High School. Congratulations to the Salvatorians, class of 2024. You know who you are. And all of the students that I had when I was at Xavier, you know who you are. Big shout out to all of you. I taught overseas for a year, and then I came back to the States, and the reason I haven't been posting over the past 3 weeks since I've been on U.S. soil is because I've been sort of like I was between jobs, and then I also had like some jet lag, so I'm back now. So I took a brief little break, but Cobbs Corner, we are back. We are back in full swing. All right, it's going to be an exciting summer. We're doing this AFI series. All right, we got some bangers coming, so definitely stay tuned. As previously mentioned, today we're going to be reviewing E.T. the Extra-Terrestrial. Introduction. A troubled child summons the courage to help a friendly alien escape from Earth and return to his home planet. Storyline. After a gentle alien becomes stranded on Earth, he is discovered and befriended by a 10-year-old boy named Elliot, bringing him into his suburban California house. Elliot introduces E.T., as he is dubbed, to his brother, Michael, and sister, Gertie, and they decide to keep his existence a secret. Soon, however, he falls ill, resulting in government intervention and a dire situation for both him and Elliot. The movie is directed by Steven Spielberg. Steven Spielberg, I mean, how many of us haven't seen at least one of this man's movies? This man is iconic. He's one of my favorite film directors. Comment down below, like, who is your all-time favorite director? He's definitely in my top 5 on any given day. Steven Spielberg, he is known for Schindler's List in 1993, which is number 8 on the AFI Top 100. Saving Private Ryan, 1998, number 71 on the AFI Top 100. Raiders of the Lost Ark, 1981, my all-time favorite Indiana Jones movie, which is number 66 on the AFI Top 100 list. And we've actually reviewed one of his movies last summer, like about a year ago. Check out episode 48. If you remember, longtime listeners of Cobbs Corner will remember last summer when I did the Change Your Life series, and one of those movies was Catch Me If You Can, which came out in 2002. So go back and listen to episode 48. The movie was written by Melissa Matheson. Melissa Matheson, she's known for her work on Kundun, Kundun, from 1997. The BFG, Big Friendly Giant, from 2016. And then Twilight Zone, the movie, 1983, she worked on segment 2. The movie stars Henry Thomas as Elliot. You've seen Henry Thomas play Samuel Ludlow in Legends of the Fall, 1994. He played Jack in 1114, back in 2003. And Johnny Sirocco in the 2002 film Gangs of New York. I now have to go and rewatch Gangs of New York because that's a really, really great movie. Bit long, but he was in that too. Drew Barrymore, I mean, Hollywood royalty. How many of us haven't seen at least one of her movies? She's known for both starring in and producing both Charlie's Angels in the year 2000 and Never Been Kissed in 1999. She played Lucy Whitmore in the 2004 rom-com 50 First Dates, and she played Danielle in Ever After, A Cinderella Story back in 1998. Lastly, I'll go, the last cast member that I'll introduce is Peter Coyote plays a government agent who is known only as Keys. Peter Coyote is known for playing Oscar in Bitter Moon, 1992, Reverend Sullivan in A Walk to Remember, 2002, and Barnes in the 1998 film Sphere. I know that was a lot of information. Without any further ado, let's go to Cobbs Corner. So this movie, one of the I guess things I've heard about this movie is that it feels like a summer movie, although really it's a Halloween movie, and it takes place in October. And the film starts out where I guess it's either the San Fernando Valley or just like the suburban areas of California, and the spaceship lands in the forest. And these forest scenes were actually filmed in the Redwood Forest. So shout out to all my listeners in the great state of California. Shout out to my listeners in whether that's Northern California near the Redwood Forests, Southern California, USC, UCLA. Salute to all of you. And yeah, this this like egg-shaped ship it lands, and then these aliens sort of exit the ship, Close Encounters of the Third Kind style. That's another Steven Spielberg movie, and yeah, we see that these aliens, like, they're not carrying guns or anything. They're actually like they actually come in peace. We find out they're actually botanists, I think, and at first we see one of the aliens. He sort of uproots a plant. He uproots like a tiny plant from this forest, and then this alien gets distracted by there's like a search party that comes over like a search party of some sort, or we later find out that they're federal agents or government personnel, but we only see them from like the waist down. We don't actually see any of their faces. We see them sort of from a child's perspective, almost like if any of you watched like Muppet Babies or The Loud House, like we don't see the adults' faces. Like I think even in Charlie Brown, like we don't see the adults' faces. So that sort of cinematography, that cinematographic, if that's a word, choice from Steven Spielberg to sort of frame the movie from a child's point of view. We're seeing it from a child's point of view, from the aliens' point of view. These aliens are not very tall. One alien, he gets distracted and gets separated from the rest of his group, and they end up taking off. He ends up getting left behind on Earth. He's distracted, and he's looking at the human suburb in Southern California. So he eventually escapes from the forest and then hides out into the back of this shack, the shed of a home in this neighborhood. We then cut to this kid, Elliot, played by the aforementioned Henry Thomas. And Elliot's home, and he's home with his brother Michael, who I don't think I said who plays Michael. Michael is played by Robert McNaughton. And so Michael and his buddies, they're playing Dungeons and Dragons. So big shout out to all the Dungeons and Dragons players, all the dungeon masters listening. Big salute to all of you. And Elliot wants to join the universe, but then one of Michael's friends says you can't just join any universe at any moment. So this is sort of a nod to how Elliot, he just feels like an outcast from this universe that he's in, and the alien who he's going to eventually meet is kind of an outcast or missing from that universe as well, from his home planet. So they order a pizza, and Elliot goes and he picks up the pizza, and then as he's walking down his driveway to pick up the pizza, his dog Harvey starts barking. So Elliot walks back to the shed and he picks up a baseball. He sees like a light emanating from the shed. He picks up the baseball, throws it into the shed, and then the alien throws the baseball back at him. They call everybody outside. Elliot, his brother, his friend, his brother's friends, his mom, and then it's funny because Michael says like Coyote's back, which I don't know if this was intentional, but like it's almost like a nod to the actor Peter Coyote who plays Keys. Keys, who again at this point we have not seen his face, and and Elliot keeps on trying to say like, oh, there's this alien or something in that shed, and so this alien is hiding initially. He's like hiding off to the side. The next day, Elliot fakes being sick, and I don't know if any of you guys have actually done this. I personally have never done it, but he like takes the thermometer and like puts it up against the light, and then put like a heating pad on his head to sort of fake having a fever, and so he gets to stay home from school. Steven Spielberg claims to have done the exact same thing when he was little. Go to school. All right, I'm not at all advocating that. All right, this is a movie. So Elliot finds this alien, and they begin to have sort of an empathic, not telekinetic, but empathic sort of connection. Empathic meaning that they are able to connect via emotions. Like there's like one of my favorite scenes where Elliot, I think Elliot, he's like he sees the alien, who I guess he's dubbed the alien E.T., and he's kind of rubbing his nose, and then E.T. starts to kind of mirror his movements, and they start to build this sort of like empathic connection, almost similar to the Force. And I understand how when Spielberg was making Close Encounters of the Third Kind, which I might do on a future episode, George Lucas was making Star Wars at the same time. Go back and listen to my review of Star Wars. I don't remember which episode number that is. And yeah, like there's like a theory, like, yeah, maybe this connection could be the Force, and it is later established in The Phantom Menace that E.T.'s species are official canon in Star Wars. We do see that one cameo in The Phantom Menace in the Galactic Senate chamber. So they build this sort of empathic relationship, and then there's another scene where Elliot actually goes to school, and this is probably one of the scenes that, I apologize if there's any background noise. This is probably one of those scenes that would make PETA, PETA probably PETA probably endorsed this movie after they saw this scene. They're about to do like a frog dissection in school, but then due to this empathic connection that ET has with Elliot, we see that ET, he's at home. He goes through the refrigerator. He finds some like packaged potato salad, and then he says like, "Ugh," throws that down. He finds a Coors Light beer in the fridge, so he ends up like drinking like a couple Coors Light beers. And then Elliot, who's in school, he starts burping, and then E.T. picks up the newspaper. He's reading a Buck Rogers comic. Buck Rogers, who it's my understanding that Buck Rogers was some sort of like space cowboy comic. And there's like a panel where it says like something about save him or like save me, and this coincides with Elliot at school. They're about to kill all these frogs. Now, when we did our dissections, I realized I'm from a whole nother generation. When we did our dissections in, middle school science, and then again in biology and anatomy and physiology, the animals showed up to us already dead, chemically preserved, already dead. We didn't have to put any chlorophyll on a cotton ball and watch the frogs die or anything. I get that it was a different time, but Elliot has this like overwhelming urge to now save the frogs, and ET, he has to be able to phone home. So we get this really nice scene where Elliot's releasing all these frogs, and then ET, he like puts together all these different gadgets and all the electronics in the house, and he's like building a satellite or building like a communication device for him to be able to communicate with his home planet. ET phone home, which is probably one of like the iconic lines from this movie. We get another scene where the sister Gertie, played by Drew Barrymore, Gertie is teaching Elliot the alphabet, teaching him how to speak. She kind of dresses him up with a bunch of clothes and teaches him how to say Elliot and like be good. So overall, I mean, this is just a really, really cute movie, guys. Go check it out. I'm not done with my favorite parts yet, but we see that the night of Halloween, they sneak E.T. out of the house and into a. They sneak him out of the house. He's underneath a blanket, underneath like a white sheet, because he's going as a ghost. And then they go. And then they ride their. Elliot rides his bike through the forest, and this is one of the most like magical scenes in the entire movie, where the John Williams score. We see Elliot riding his bike through the forest, and it really just like kind of takes us all back to that moment as a kid when you learn how to ride a bike and you realize that you're no longer limited to just your neighborhood. You finally rode your bike off of your street. You can like ride it. You can like ride your bike around from place to place. He rides his bike. He's about to ride it off a cliff, but then he starts to fly, and just that iconic imagery of Elliot and E.T. flying on the bike in the air, and Elliot he keeps on pedaling, but just that there's that really, really iconic shot, like the best shot in the film in my opinion. They go over to this one part of the woods where they're able to put up their communication device, and Elliot ends up staying there all night. He shows up, he eventually comes home the next morning, comes to find out that his mom has called the police and that they, are about to go looking for him, but then thank God he's there, and then they see E.T. is there as well, but he's sick, so the mom finally sees E.T. because this whole time E.T. has only been seen by the kids. He's only been seen by Michael, Gertie, and Elliot. And, now he's seen by the adults. And the government has now come, and they've pretty much taken over that house. And they start to, they start to kind of examine ET, and they realize that he has, I think they're called nucleides, 6 different either nucleides or blood types, or I forget the exact terminology. Again, biologists, surgeons, neurologists, surgeons, biologists, help me out in the comments. The different, he's got 6 different either blood types or nucleides. I forget what the exact term is. I already said that. So they're experimenting on him, as they're also experimenting on Elliot, because they realize the two of them have this empathic connection. E.T. dies, and they're about to put him on ice, but then E.T. was able to, he has this glowing, this light inside of him, where he was able to alert his folks back home of impending danger. So he starts to light up, and he comes back to life. And then Elliot, along with Greg and Gertie, they now plan to take E.T. away from the scientists and to just ride their bikes into the forest. Now that E.T. was able to phone home, and his alien and his I guess his fellow group of botanist aliens are now coming back to Earth to pick him up. So we get a really, really great scene where, a nice little sequence where, Greg is driving a van. He says, I've never driven forward before, and then he, drives a van. They escape from that compound, and then a group of them are able to, they wrap E.T. in a sheet. A group of them are able to ride into the forest and just and then we get a shot where the police are trying to stop them. They're on the road, and there's 2 police cars that are facing each other. They're trying to stop them, but then they fly above the police cars. And I've even heard that for the 2002 re-release, for the 20th anniversary, when E.T. was put back, I think it was put back in theaters in 2002, Steven Spielberg, he had edited out the shotguns that the police are holding. He had edited and replaced them with walkie-talkies, and he had replaced the handguns also with walkie-talkies. He later, in 2011, I think in 2011, for I think the 30th anniversary, because I feel there was a 30th, either 25th or 30th anniversary of the movie that I think I had on DVD. He later said in 2011 that he regrets doing that, and if you watch the movie today, I'm pretty sure he's undone that edit. But he said he said how he regrets having done that in 2002. He never should have done it in the first place, because these movies are a reflection of the world that we lived in at that time. Movies, they're a sign of the times. And he didn't want to sort of take past art and then have to examine it through the lens that we're almost forced to be, or we're almost being forced to sort of view art and view movies through today. And really, Steven Spielberg is a real one for that. Especially the fact that he was willing to acknowledge that he shouldn't have done what he did at that time. And he could say it way better than I can. I mean, that interview is out there in the world, so definitely go check that out. But yeah, then we get that shot of everybody's bikes just flying off, just flying off past the police cars, flying over into the forest, and then we get a really emotional ending where E.T.'s people have come to pick him up. And he tells Elliot, I'll be right here, which is exactly what Elliot told E.T. on the day where he faked his sickness so he could stay home and kind of show E.T. the ropes. He said, "Don't go anywhere, stay, I'll be right here." And now E.T. is telling him, "I'll be right here." And they even give E.T. this houseplant, this houseplant, because remember, E.T., his species, they're botanists. They just collect plants from other planets, and he goes back to his home planet with an Earth plant. He tells Gertie, "Be good," which was one of the sayings, which was one of the sayings that he learned with Gertie. He tells her, "Be good." He tells Elliot, "I'll be right here." And E.T. leaves, flies off into the sunset, but as he leaves behind, as the ship is flying off, he leaves behind a rainbow in the sky. And that is the end of E.T. the Extra-Terrestrial. So this movie deals with themes such as coming of age, for sure, but also empathy. Really, empathy is at the core of this movie. And something I didn't bring up in the last segment was the fact that Elliot was missing his dad throughout the entire movie. Now, we never see his father. We do hear that Elliot's parents had recently divorced or separated. We do hear that his father is in Mexico, and so Elliot is sort of missing his father. And in the 2017 HBO documentary Spielberg, Steven Spielberg talks about his parents' separation. How when he was young, his parents had separated, and if you look at a lot of his early movies, they were really sort of him, sort of like, I guess him. They were almost like self-referential, and like sort of his struggles with his father and his mother, and the two of them being separated when he was a kid, and sort of like his hurting. And so especially especially if you look at a lot of his other movies. So I forgot to bring that up, but empathy is really at the core, and being able to, and a child being able to sort of bond with an alien species and feel empathy for an alien, someone who's not of this world, who does not speak the same language, but being able to have that emotional connection, being able to have that empathy for one another, and to think about how others feel. That is the real takeaway for all of us, regardless of your age. Is empathy. Empathy is the essential theme of this movie. Is empathy, and of course coming of age. Coming of age. It's a coming of age tale for Elliot. Him realizing that there's a whole world out there, and probably part of the reason why Steven Spielberg went and undid, and I'm actually glad that he undid that 2002 edit where he turned the guns into walkie-talkies, because as a coming-of-age tale, Elliot and, to the kids and even maybe some young adults watching the movie, they need to realize that, the world is not all sunshine, lollipops, and rainbows, and that it can be a violent place at times. And so Elliot has that realization. At the beginning of my favorite parts segment, I said how this movie feels like a summer movie, and one could argue that it is still a summer movie, even though it does take place in October. And I say that only because it's like when you're a kid and you go away to summer camp, you go to day camp, whether it be in your hometown or in another town. You go to day camp, or you go to summer camp, and you make friends at summer camp. You bond over the course of the summer, over the course of like 8 weeks. I mean, like when I was a kid, I used to think that summer lasted forever. Summer is short. It is only about 8 weeks, about 7 or 8 weeks, and then you're back in school, and it's like you see them over the summer, but then you don't know when you're going to see them again because you don't go to the same school, you don't live in the same town, so you don't know when you're going to see each other again, but you're grateful for the experience that you've had. And it's the same thing with Elliot and with E.T. You know, Elliot, his home is Earth. E.T.'s home is, whatever the name of his planet is. And that there's even a scene where E.T. and Elliot, where Elliot tries to tell E.T., you can stay here, I'll protect you, I'll make sure that nobody harms you, but, you know, E.T. realizes that this is not his home planet, so he has that maturity. And Elliot has to realize that. He has to realize that his home is Earth and that E.T.'s home is out there. But he is grateful. But they're both grateful for the time that they were able to spend with each other. And a lot of times in life, you will meet people like not just for kids. You know, you could be at any season in your life. You meet people, and they're with you. The two of you, you and this other person or other group of people, you're in the same place for a reason and a season. You know, you're together for that season, and I know we have the internet today, so we can, you know, keep in touch with each other. You're there for a reason and a season, and then that season ends, and you don't know when you're going to see them again. But you're grateful for the time that you were able to spend together. You know, and then what really got me was the scene where Elliot says, like, you must be dead because I don't know how to feel. And having to rediscover how a certain person made you feel when they were alive, and then realizing the permanence of death, and dealing with death, and sort of, you know, being able to deal with death and that sort of way. And I guess grieving and dealing with death, and you know, it all comes back to empathy. So like I said, you know, the main themes, the main takeaways of this movie are: it's a coming of age tale, it's a summer movie. Empathy. Be empathetic. Learn how to be empathetic. Practice empathy. Big shout out to the YouTube channel Jubilee. I can't wait to be in one of your videos. Can't wait to interview one of you from Jubilee. But embrace empathy. Be able to be empathetic towards one another. You know, even though they may not look like you, they may not talk like you. You may not speak the same language. You may not use the same vernacular. But they are a human being. They are a life form. Even us as humans, we must have empathy towards animals as well. Empathy towards one another, empathy towards animals, empathy towards our environment, towards our common home. So, empathy is the main theme of E.T., the Extra-Terrestrial.
I can feel the blood creeping up from the heathens. Got will, got fight, got pride, got reason. If they wanna go eat, then you know I'm gon' feed them. If you're coming for me, hope you're ready for a demon. I got eyes in the back of my head, I'm seeing. Take me for granted and you know I'm leaving. I'ma take what's mine with the webs I'm weaving. I could take this crowd from seeing to believing. Got a taste for blood and my tongue keeps bleeding.
So now we can finally move on to E.T. Plus. This is the awards and trivia segment for the newcomers. anyone who hasn't listened to Cobbs Corner before. E.T. the Extra-Terrestrial Plus. So the movie won 4 Oscars. It had a total of 52 award wins and 38 nominations. I'm only going to go through the Academy Awards. So 1983, Steven Spielberg and Kathleen Kennedy. Kathleen Kennedy, who I think was a co-director on this movie, she is the current president of Lucasfilm. So Spielberg and Kennedy were nominated for Best Picture. Spielberg was also nominated for Best Director. Melissa Matheson was nominated for Best Writing, a screenplay written directly for the screen. This is all at the 1983 Oscars. Alan DeVoe, D-A-V-I-A, DeVio, was nominated for Best Cinematography. Robert Knudsen, Robert Glass, Don Digiramo, Gene S. Cantamessa, all won the Oscar for Best Sound. And Carol Littleton was nominated for Best Film Editing. Carol Rambaldi, Dennis Murin, and Kenneth Smith won the Oscar for Best Visual Effects. Charles L. Campbell and Ben Burt won for won the Oscar for Best Effects, Sound Effects Editing. And last but certainly not least, the great John Williams won Best Original Score. Yes, I'm telling you, John Williams never fails. I'm telling you, John Williams and Danny Elfman are probably some of the greatest, movie soundtrack composers. Can't wait to have one or both of you on the podcast. Also, Steven Spielberg. Can't wait to interview you. Steven Spielberg. So, onto the trivia. Most of the full-body puppetry was performed by a 2'10" tall stuntman, but the scenes in the kitchen were done using a 12-year-old boy who was born without legs, but was an expert on walking on his hands. I do remember hearing something about the puppeteer, or the boy walking on his hands. I'm telling you guys, we really take CGI for granted. We really take it all for granted today with motion capture. 40 years ago, there was none of that. Right? They had stuntmen in the suits. They had like 5 people inside the suit for Jabba the Hutt in Return of the Jedi. So yeah, big shout out to the stunt people who worked their magic back in '82. At one point, Gertie looks down at E.T. and says, "I don't like his feet." This was ad-libbed by Drew Barrymore and was actually her referring to the grouping of wires coming out of the E.T. puppet. She also ad-libbed the line, "Give me a break," after Elliot tells her only little kids can see E.T. Well, it's some great child acting on Drew Barrymore's part, for sure. The end of the film was one of the most significant musical experiences for composer John Williams. After several attempts were made to match the score to the film, Steven Spielberg took the film off the screen and encouraged Williams to conduct the orchestra the way he would at a concert. He did, and Spielberg slightly re-edited the film to match the music, which is unusual since normally the music would be edited to match the film. The result was Williams winning the 1982 Academy Award for Best Original Score. Clearly, he did something right. Clearly, Spielberg and Williams, did something right. And I know John Williams, he's done the score for a number of Spielberg's films. So yeah, those two are like a dynamic duo. You get Williams on the score, and you get Spielberg behind the camera, and you just watch the magic happen. It's like the Beatles, all you need is love. He recreated this at his last appearance with the LA Philharmonic at the Hollywood Bowl in 2013, conducting the orchestra live while the last reel was shown on the Jumbotrons. That's something I would like to do, is actually, like, I think they did it for Black Panther, like, they've done it for a number of movies, where you watch the movie, but you have a live band actually playing like the score, so you actually hear the band playing the music as the movie's playing, and it's just great. It's just spot on. Steven Spielberg shot most of the film from the eye level of a child to further connection with Elliot and E.T. I brought that up in my favorite parts. Yep, I thought I brought that up in my favorite parts segment. Yep, shoot it from the eye level of a child to, again, further that connection. That connection with, Elliot and E.T., we're filming this from a child's perspective. So, Richard Attenborough later said that he felt bad that his own film, Gandhi, which came out the same year, 1982, beat this film to the Best Picture Academy Award because he considered his friend Steven Spielberg's film more deserving of the award and was convinced before the ceremony that it would win. Attenborough described E.T. as, quote, a quite extraordinary piece of cinema. You see, I've probably talked about it in the past on this podcast, but, I'm really not a huge fan of the Academy Awards. I've even said, who even watches the Oscars? It's on a Sunday night. But yeah, I mean, for the guy who won the Oscar to be like, hey, I should have just been nominated, and E.T. deserves that win. Richard Attenborough pretty much telling Spielberg, hey, you got robbed. I think something similar happened at the Grammys when I think was it Macklemore who won instead of Kendrick, and even Macklemore was like, hey, you got robbed. So big shout out to Richard Attenborough, and I'll have to check out Gandhi. I've seen 1 or 2 scenes for that movie. User review: one of my best childhood movies ever. 8 out of 10 stars. There's honestly nothing bad I can say about this movie. I loved E.T. when I was a little kid, and now at 39, I still love the movie. Every time I watch this movie, it makes me feel like a little kid again. It's very entertaining, sweet and cool. Still, there's one thing I have to mention. Steven Spielberg brought out a special DVD version of this movie, which is called E.T. the Special Edition. It's still the same fabulous movie we all know. They just improved on 12%. They just improved on 12% of the special effects and also included a never-before-seen fun and interesting scene where you learn E.T. can breathe underwater. It is an absolute must-buy if you are a big fan of this movie. I will love this movie till the day I die. I always wish Spielberg had made a very emotional and cool sequel. This user review is from Buxie, Buksia, Buxie, and it was posted on November 15th, 2019. I completely agree. Now, granted, I was not alive when this movie came out. This movie is before my time. I think even my parents were kids when this movie came out in the early 80s. And I want to say I have either still have or had the special DVD version of the movie from 2012, I think. I feel like I have a copy of this movie somewhere at my house that I'll find. but yeah, okay, yeah, they improved on 12% of the special effects, and we learned that E.T. can breathe underwater. Why do I feel like I knew that, though? I'm trying to think, where did I hear that? I did hear that Spielberg had penned an E.T. sequel that just never happened, that either got canceled or just never got off the ground, But nevertheless, I mean, this movie is a classic. I really can't say anything bad about it. I mean, it's just a timeless classic. It still holds up 42 years later. We're still talking about it. It's just all around a great movie, and it's not just a feel-good movie. There's takeaways that you can it's a movie you can watch as a kid and just fall in love with, and then watch it again and again, as you get older, as you yourself are coming of age, as you're in different stages of your life. You can just come back to it once every 5 years, and then you kind of realize, oh, I didn't pick up on that when I watched it when I was 5, and now I'm when I was 5 years old, and now I'm 20. It's oh yeah, I kind of I kind of picked up on this and this, and this, and then I didn't pick up on this when I was 15 or so. So yeah, 8 out of 10 stars. I'd maybe give it about the same. I was gonna say 8.5, but nah, 8 out of 10. The IMDb ranking for this movie is 7.9 out of 10 stars, actually, so it's slightly below my ranking. It has a Letterboxd score of 3.8 out of 5 stars. The movie was released on June 11th, 1982. It is an American movie. The movie is shot in English. It's also known as just E.T. One of the main filming locations of the movie was 7121 Lonzo Street, Tujunga, Los Angeles, California. This is Elliot's home. The production companies are Universal Pictures and Amblin Entertainment. Amblin Entertainment, the logo for Amblin Entertainment is Elliot riding his bike through the sky. So on to the box office. The movie had an estimated budget of $10.5 million, and well, that's 1982. So I'm not sure. I actually didn't calculate what that would translate to in 2024. Its gross domestic box office haul was over 437.3 million at the box office, which would be about $1.4 billion in today's money. Its opening weekend in the U.S. and Canada, it made a whopping $11.8 million, and its gross worldwide was $792.9 million with an M, which is about $2.5 billion in 2024. Lastly, Rotten Tomatoes. Its tomato meter score is a 99% and an audience score of 72%. I'm 100% with the critics on this one. Audience, meet me in the middle. 88%. Meet me in the middle on Rotten Tomatoes. Critics' consensus. Playing as both an exciting sci-fi adventure and a remarkable portrait of childhood, Steven Spielberg's touching tale of a homesick alien remains a piece of movie magic for young and old. Where can you watch E.T.? You can rent E.T. the Extra-Terrestrial on Fandango at Home, Prime Video, Apple TV, or you could also buy it on Fandango at Home, Prime Video, or Apple TV. Me personally, I was able to rent this movie on YouTube Movies. I think it costs like $3.79. As of the recording of this podcast, this movie is not streaming on any major streaming platform here in the United States. So that is all for today's review of E.T. the Extra-Terrestrial. Guys, I'm so excited to be back recording episodes again. I know we took a bit of a break. I'm not even going to call it a hiatus. I just kind of needed a little bit of breathing room, a little time to kind of get myself together, unpack for Micronesia. I loved my time in Micronesia. I would go back. Shout out to the FSM. Shout out to Guam. I love going to Guam. When I was in, I was in Guam for New Year's Eve. And I'm actually going to give a shout out to all of my stops from the FSM back to the East Coast. Big shout out to my listeners in Hawaii. Well, let's see. Aloha. Well, first off, Rananim to my listeners in the state of Chuuk in the Federated States of Micronesia. Half a day to my listeners in Guam. Aloha to my listeners in Hawaii. I guess shout out or hello to my listeners in Denver, and shout out to my listeners in the great state of New Jersey, where it is illegal to pump gas, to pump your own gas. Yes, shout out to my listeners in New Jersey. Can't wait to come by. Can't wait to come through. All right, New Jersey. Maybe I'll do a podcast tour. Maybe I'll go around the United States Come to New Jersey or Denver or Hawaii. Who knows? Alright, where was I? If you like what you heard today, then don't forget to like this video, leave a comment below, share it, click that subscribe button, and turn on those post notifications so you get notified when I upload new episodes. If you want to stay up to date on all things Cobbs Corner and to keep up to date with where I'm currently at in the Fantasy Movie League, I don't think I'm doing that well, then you need to follow me on Instagram, Threads, and TikTok. All of that information is in the description box below. For those of you who listened all the way to the end of this episode, I greatly appreciate you. If you're watching this episode on YouTube, click the video on the screen right now to listen to my last episode where I did an audio commentary for High School Musical 3 senior year. It is a complete banger of an episode. And click the playlist to listen to all of my other AFI Top 100 movie reviews. As always, I'll talk to all of you in the next episode. Peace.